So welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today we're talking about automation and innovation in the hemp and cannabis industry. We are here live at the World Trade Center. I'm here with Arnar and Denny. They're with Greenvault Systems. I'm here with Jason of 420 Wholesale Pack, and then there's Andy of Poseidon Asset Management. But Jason wanted to talk to you a little bit about the volatility. Washington State recently tried to implement rule changes that would have affected over 70% of the edibles market and would have resulted in higher compliance costs and possibly lost market share. So what did we learn, or what advice can you give to companies in emerging cannabis markets on how to prepare for a volatile regulatory market? I remember when we were in Vegas, you showed me this in-house printer and how just something as simple as that is, I don't even know if you can consider that innovation. But in this industry, it is, because if you wait for labels from China, for example, they're obsolete en route with these quick changes. So I don't know, what can you do, or what can you offer, advice or otherwise, for companies that are getting into the emerging markets and dealing with the volatile regulatory environment?
Yeah, so I've been in this industry for about 4 years now, and so I've seen a lot of changes regulatory-wise through that period of time. I've seen a lot of my customers go through a ton of pain, throwing huge quantities of packaging in the garbage because of a regulatory change. That can bankrupt companies. If you make a huge investment on a new branded package, and all of a sudden the LCB decides they're going to change the edibles rules, they don't give you a heads up about that before that necessarily happens always. And so they're getting better about it. The LCB is, to their credit, getting a little bit better about giving us longer lead times to adapt to these rule changes. But in the early days, it was awful. I had many customers who literally, like you were saying, that they got a big order of branded packaging on the water coming from China. By the time it's landed, it's just going in the garbage.
And $40,000 is a lot of money for these companies, and if they lose on that, that could really change their strategy.
Yeah, and we've seen that, and so we've kind of learned through our customers throughout the years, being in this really regulated industry, that while you can get some really good, inexpensive, quality-looking packaging if you work with the right people from overseas, there's still those lead times. Even if you air freight it, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks typically. And so that's not quick enough in our industry. A lot of people I know that work in the industry, we kind of joke about cannabis industry like the dog years. Like 1 year is like the equivalent of 7 years of business, because it's so ever changing. And it's whether it's a regulatory change, or maybe it's just that strain loses its steam and it's not selling. And maybe you invested real heavy in something on your own decision, that you just were wrong about. And if you've got solutions like these printers where you can adapt quickly and edit and change your branding on the fly, you're not in that position where you're just throwing a ton of product, packaging in the dumpster, which is money. I had many cases where I had customers where they're, I need to get this price on my label. Okay, we got to buy $40,000 to get that price. Okay, well, I'll buy that. And then 6 months later, they're like, well, I threw $30,000 in the garbage. So did you get that price anymore? No, you didn't. You paid 4 times that price. So those kinds of things can really, ultimately bankrupt a business if you make enough of those bad decisions, or if it's not your decision-making process, but it's just the regulatory process that's making you kind of jump through all these hurdles. And so we found that these label printers really help address and kind of streamline that process, so that if there is a regulatory hurdle that has to change, you buy blank labels now, those don't ever really go. There's a shelf life on them eventually, but you're not going to have to throw a blank label away. You can buy those in bulk, get that low label cost, and then you're printing on demand as you need it. It's also speed to market. So, if you're needing to get something tested, like everything's tested, if you need to get that terpene report on your label, you got to wait 2 to 4 weeks, even if you're using a local label printer. And so, if you've got a label printer in-house, you can get that oil report back, you can print that information that day, and you can be in the store by that evening. And that's a big game changer too. So that's not quite so much on the regulatory side, but that's just some of the other benefits of that. So whether it's a regulatory challenge, your own business decisions that were wrong, or just the market shifting rapidly, all those things can really jam up cannabis companies. And having automated tools so that you can kind of bring some of that branding control in-house is really, really important in my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting, because in a normal industry, you think of outsourcing to save money, but in this industry, it's not really the same. So it's a strategy for sure to stay on top. And with that, I really appreciate you all being here with me today. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is your Cannabis Business Podcast, The Talking Hedge. Like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.